Hey everybody, and welcome back to Split Couch Games. I'm Scott,
And I'm Ben.
and I guess we established that this is going to be Couchcast as the name
Yeah.
of our podcast. So this is
Yeah.
Couchcast number 1, but really podcast number 30. Um,
Why don't we just say it's Couchcast number 30?
okay, Couchcast number 30. Whatever, fuck you. Um, anyway, we're going to be talking today about really our favorite topic, which is
Copyright.
copyright, because that's literally all we ever talk about. Because Take Two has or delivered a cease and desist to the Open4 modding tool, which allows for modding of Grand Theft Auto 4, Grand Theft Auto 5, and Max Payne 3. I think are the three that I saw that it supports.
Yeah. But like the main thing here is Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah. So they sent the cease and desist, and the developers of the mod tool decided that it wasn't worth going through the legal system for months at a time. And
Yeah, because even though they felt like they could win, they decided it wasn't worth the trouble, mainly because Take-Two probably has more money for lawyers than what they do. So
yeah, like it's going to be they don't make any money off the mod tool or anything like that, so there's no incentive for them to go out and do it.
yeah.
Do you want to say, so everyone's really upset, there's been, I think it was 20,000 negative reviews on Steam for GTA 5 to make it mostly negative reviewed recently.
That sounds
It might be 2,000.
like that number is honestly lower than what I had thought it was going to be.
No, it's according to PC Gamer, it's 20,000.
All right. Well, there you
go. Or 20,000 signed a petition, and then it's been hammered with negative reviews on Steam.
Gotcha.
But I do want to... Take-Two did come out with a statement saying... Let me pull it up here. Where did it go? They said that Take-Two's actions were not specifically targeting single-player mods. Unfortunately, Open4 enables recent malicious mods that allow harassment of players and interfere with the GTA Online experience for everybody. We are working to figure out a way we can continue to support the creative community without negatively impacting our players.
So, about that. Now, I don't play GTA 5, or frankly, at all, really, but much less on the PC. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to sound like I am, a voice of reason and a knowledgeable, experienced, I know what I'm talking about type of person here, but based off of the research that I've done, and that type of thing, my understanding of Open4 is, it basically says that they go out of their way to ensure that Open4 does not touch any source code and does not affect the GTA Online environments.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, I could be wrong. And, obviously, maybe, Take-Two is, maybe they know something more than what the general populace doesn't. So maybe even the entire general populace is a little misinformed in regards to this. But to me, it kind of sounds like they found the actual GTA Online hacking community at Force Hacks, which is a little bit of a side story. Days after issuing the takedown for the Open4 modding tool, they went after the Force Hacks service, which is it's essentially a cheating service. You pay $15 a month, and you're allowed to, basically harass and cheat or otherwise exploit the GTA Online environment. Mm-hmm. So it to me, it kind of sounds like they found Force Hacks, they saw what loophole or whatever they were utilizing, and then went into full-on panic mode and just decided to shut everything down.
Yeah.
Because, again, I don't want to sound like I know with 100% certainty, that Open4 doesn't touch the online environment or source code or anything like that. But my understanding has always been that like it doesn't touch those things, and that's why it has been allowed for all of these years. And even if what they're saying is true, I feel like there's a better way that they could have gone about this. Just simply because GTA as a franchise, but like GTA 5, even just on its own, has been allowed to be freely modded for years now, and they've done nothing. And I know that, in previous podcasts and everything, I've basically said that I feel like, we as consumers should abide by the will of the publishers and developers when it comes to, modding games and everything like that. And, that's entire conversation in and of itself. But typically when it comes to modding and copyright and all that kind of stuff, like I'm more of I think the rules that we have work for their intended purpose, but there does need to be clarification. And I feel like this is one of those cases that is similar to standard copyright infringement, which is where it's been going on long enough. So Take-Two legally shouldn't have the right to issue a cease and desist in this manner. Because, it'd be one thing if we were talking about like Open4 just recently, like within the last, let's say even as far back as 6 months, just recently figured out how to mod GTA 5. And they were like, "Oh, no, we didn't want you to do it in 5. Like, keep it in 4 and, Max Payne 3 or whatever." I feel like that would be a different story. But since it's been going on for years at this point, I feel like they've given up that right to say no.
So I see what you're saying there. And, usually I'm in your camp where you are on this, but I'm actually on the opposite side currently. Like you, I'm not an expert on everything. But and I'm not just trying to be contrarian or anything. I legitimately think that they're assuming that what they say is true. Like I'm going to assume that because Open4 was just updated late March, so 2 months ago. The first major release in over a year for features. So It's entirely possible that something did happen in that release that allowed it to really impact the online community, which when the way that the Rockstar or the Grand Theft Auto Online thing works is there's a bunch of microtransactions. So people have dumped hundreds of dollars of real money into this. And if modding, and they need to protect those players, and that's the biggest thing is that like definitely. If they feel there's a threat to those paying players, then I feel like I don't care if it just happened now or if a new exploit is found, they need to protect it, whether or not modding has been allowed in the past.
Yeah, and I mean I totally agree with you for the most part there. Like they obviously need to protect their online environment from any sort of cheating and that kind of thing. They need to protect those paying players. I feel like that kind of goes without saying. But if a recent exploit was opened up or taken advantage of or whatever by Open4, is the cease and desist really the correct way to go about it? Because I feel like even if it was intentional, but like there is always the possibility that that type of door was opened accidentally. But even if it was intentionally opened, I feel like the best course of action would have been for Take-Two to contact Open4, be like, "Hey guys, look, like this part right here, we're not okay with, and you need to fix it now. Otherwise, we're gonna have to issue a cease and desist." And I mean, obviously that could have happened, but so far, as far as both parties are concerned, there has been no prior communication to the cease and desist.
I think that, in a way, like I feel like it may end up being kind of like what you're saying with the copyright. Like once they realize that there's an issue with this modding tool, they have to act as quickly as possible. So maybe the correct answer, like I think that throwing out the cease and desist is not a terrible idea. And then if like it does end up being that the latest release is the reason why, say, hey, if you guys just roll back to the previous release, like, we're okay with this tool being here. But you and I both know that when it comes to protecting your IP and stuff, like, timing and being as quick about it as possible is important.
Sure.
So I don't know. Like, I mean, it's shitty that it kind of seems to have happened out of the blue, and Rockstar or Take Two. Sorry, I just consider those like one and the same.
Yeah.
When it comes to Grand Theft Auto,
it's understandable.
But Take Two like hasn't commented outside of the statement that I read at the beginning. So there's so much that we don't know about what's going on, even on their end, and so I don't know. It seems like I'm gonna like specifically Rockstar. I don't know much about Take Two in terms of modding, but like Rockstar in the past, outside of, I think we talked about the Red Dead Redemption 5, I think it was, where a team was trying to recreate the Red Dead Redemption map.
Oh, right. I was so concerned. I was like, dude, the second one's not even out yet. What the fuck are you talking about?
The mod, yeah.
Yeah, the one where they were trying to bring Red Dead Redemption into Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Other than that, like, they've, like you said, always been supportive of modding. So I'm curious if maybe because we're hearing this as Take Two talking to or sending the cease and desist, like whether or not that's Take Two being hyper aggressive for some reason, or if Rockstar was also part of that decision.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like,
I guess we should explain for those who don't know, Take Two is the publisher, Rockstar is the developer of the game.
Yeah. And now, is it just because I don't know it at all, and I don't know if you know, but is Take Two like a publisher / owner, kind of like the relationship that EA has with BioWare? You don't know?
Well,
right,
you
look that up. I'm
continue
going to start
saying
talking.
things.
The main reason I was bringing that up is just simply because, like, if Take Two is the, categorical owner of Rockstar, then technically it would be on them to call out any major violations of copyright and that type of thing, because I think technically at that point they are legal owners of the copyright. I mean, obviously I think it would kind of depend on how all of like the paperwork and everything was done when it came to Take Two doing that, if they did, but I don't know.
According to Wikipedia, Take Two
most reliable source.
Yeah. According to Wikipedia, Take Two wholly owns the publishers Rockstar Games and 2K Games.
All right. Well, there you go.
So I guess Rockstar is a publisher in and of themselves?
Sure.
All right. Anyway,
I don't know.
It's just gotten weird. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to me, like, because usually when you talk about a specific game, you talk about the developers, not the publishers.
Yeah.
Usually speaking, like, you're like, oh, BioWare developed Mass Effect Andromeda. You don't hear like EA did this to Mass Effect Andromeda, really, or whatever.
Yeah. Typically those relations are pretty set apart, and
which is honestly, why I'm confused a little bit here.
Yeah, and I feel like that's mainly because Take Two typically has sort of like a hands-off approach, but I feel like in more recent years they've been way more hands-on. Because I mean, there have been stories and everything that like I've heard or read or something, on the internet, from people that have in the past worked at a studio associated with them or something, and as assuming those stories are to be believed, within like the last 5 or 6 years, like they've been pretty heavy-handed with a lot of their decisions and everything. So I don't know if like there's a change in leadership at Take Two or something that maybe is like causing a lot of these rough waters or what, but
yeah, it's something that we should definitely keep an eye on, because this has been happening more and more. with them.
Yeah.
Specifically with Grand Theft Auto 5. So if it is, like you said, a change in leadership or a change in philosophy, then there's going to be more of it.
Yeah. Because I mean, Take Two is also, I think, owner, publisher, whatever for Gearbox, aren't they? So, because I mean, I had heard that I think I had heard that they were at least influential in the decision to label the Battleborn going free to play as a free trial, as opposed to saying free to play. You know?
Yeah.
So.
You said Gearbox. It sounds right, but let me just double check on that. Oh yeah, no, Gearbox is. This is getting so confusing. Okay. Yes.
That's what we love.
So Gearbox
we gotta make things complicated.
So Gearbox is under 2K, and 2K is under Take Two.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not convoluted.
Tax reasons, I assume. I don't know.
Like this is like, what is it? This was like Arcane is a part of Bethesda, which is a part of ZeniMax.
Yeah.
Or something like. I don't know. I don't know if Arcane is actually part of Bethesda or not, but I mean, like that's the kind of like tree branching that we're working with here.
I'm guessing that like Take Two just got bought out by Comcast or something.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
By Comcast or some other like giant media conglomerate.
Disney.
Yeah, Disney owns everything.
Disney owns Grand Theft Auto now, confirmed.
Next thing you know, Disney's going to be like, we bought EA.
Well, no, why would they buy EA? They practically own EA because they own Star Wars.
Yeah, I know.
So,
that's why I'm saying that they're
going to finalize it.
Finalize it. Next thing you know, we're going to have like Mickey Mouse in fucking Mass Effect, and
oh god,
like all your sports games are just going to turn into like Goofy Moofy Redux.
Okay, anyway, we're moving on from this nightmare. So I think we can both agree that what we want from Take Two is clarity on what's allowed and what's not allowed, or like what they're okay with, I guess.
For sure.
Kind of like what happened to Hearthstone streamer / YouTuber Disguised Toast.
Interesting name.
So it's a play on, I forget the term, but it's like a play on words because there's a Hearthstone card that says "This guy's toast." So, yeah, so he's yeah,
or whatever.
What? Oh yeah,
homonym.
Ad hominem. Yeah,
is that? Yeah,
I think that's right. I'm an English major. Anyway, so he was streaming, just doing his normal thing, and then a couple of his viewers were like, "What do you think of this exploit?" And he had kind of heard about it, and I don't know if it's been patched yet, so I'm not going to say what the exploit was.
Oh, I mean, you could. It's not like, well, actually, no. You do have a couple Hearthstone clips on the channel.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm not going to say what it was, but there was an interaction. So there was interactions between two cards. That if you did it, it would freeze the game for both players.
Oh, good.
And the person who did the exploit would end up with a win.
Good. Good.
So he tested it out because he was streaming and people wanted to know his thoughts. So he's like, I don't know anything about it. So he just tried it out. And then because of he's very analytical in nature, and he's done these types of videos on YouTube in the past for exploits where he goes in and he basically researches them. Even before they've been fixed. So he's done this in the past, so he has no reason to think that anything he's doing is wrong.
Yeah.
And Blizzard even has partnered with him in the past, like he's done card reveals and stuff with them.
Yeah.
So he has a good relationship with Blizzard, and so he goes through and he's doing research and he finds out that there's other cards that this interaction happens with.
Okay.
And he sends off a notification to Blizzard saying, "Hey, I found this out in case you guys don't know." Links them to the stream and everything like that, I believe. And he gets a call from Blizzard later saying that his account's been suspended for 3 days. He contacts them and he figures out that it's because he was promoting the use of exploits in the game, which is obviously against terms of use.
Yeah.
And so like I see it from both ways. Like,
yeah,
there's no, like, you should definitely keep those things to yourself, because you don't want that to go rampant.
Yeah.
And especially he has, thousands of viewers watching him at any given moment.
Sure.
So it's going to spread. But to his point and to his credit, he didn't say, like, he wasn't mad or anything. Like, he made a video saying, like, this is what happened and he understands why they did it.
Uh-huh.
His only complaint is that he's done those things in the past and they haven't had an issue. So he would like there to be a clear
some consistency.
Yeah, consistency.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously this is kind of a shitty situation. Like that's pretty plain and clear. And that's for a lot of different reasons that I'll reiterate / get into my opinions on and everything. But just for clarity, for my sake, when you say that he's done videos like this in the past before, were they like singular YouTube videos or was it a stream?
I believe singular YouTube videos. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay.
But he listed out like 8 videos that he did in the past, just like this.
Well, here are my thoughts. I think Blizzard was technically in the right. Mm-hmm. 'Cause, I mean, for obvious reasons. I don't necessarily agree with it, especially because it sounds like he discovered new information that wasn't known to the general populace.
Yeah.
But
that's the part is like he definitely wasn't doing
new
it maliciously.
information. The new information, assuming he found that out and everything on stream, I feel like that's what did him in. Because at that point, like, you're not just going like, "Hey, this is the exploit," like, don't do it or you could get in trouble or anything like what he may have done in his YouTube videos.
I see.
But like, you're now going like, "Oh, well, there's this exploit with these 2 cards, but it also happens with these other 7 or whatever."
Well, on that note, I feel like it's
that's
better that
maybe
way,
not necessarily direct promotion of utilizing the exploit, but I feel like helping a vast population discover how to recreate the exploit with additional cards is
but
what
I feel
became
like
the problem.
like so basically, like, in his explanation video he showed the basically outtakes from the stream, and it was clear that he was not promoting it, and he was literally just so curious about the interactions between the cards. He was legitimately like, "Oh, I wonder if this will work," and like clearly just doing it to learn.
Sure.
And like he was figuring out as he went, which I feel like is more understandable in a live environment, because it's not like he took the time to make a YouTube video, upload the YouTube video. He was just like going through his natural thought process.
Yeah.
Which obviously, like, again, doesn't excuse, like, you shouldn't ever publicize an exploit. And to be clear, I think at the end of the video, he said that he and Blizzard had a talk, and they decided they don't have a problem with those types of videos once the exploit is fixed.
Sure.
So from now on, he's not going to release a video before the exploit is fixed.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, I feel like had he just been like, "Oh, this, 1 card combination is totally a thing," and then later in his own time off stream, he had discovered the other things, that would have obviously been completely different. I genuinely feel like the fact that he opened the exploit up to a greater combination of cards is what the issue was. Because, I mean, even if you are just going like, well, I wonder about this, like, even if he never said, like, oh, you guys should totally do this or anything like that, like, in a very basic way, you're at the very least teaching people that maybe don't know how to think that way. That, like, hey,
Sure.
if this type of thing happens, like, you can totally think about it in this way and get similar results.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very much kind of like a video game tester's mindset type of thing. And although not everyone can think that way, it is something that can very easily be taught, even through basic observation.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is what got him in trouble. And I mean, it sucks, but at the same time, like, you can't really be angry because it's like, I mean, I was breaking the rules, but at the same time, it hasn't been an issue before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like, well, just because you didn't get caught doesn't mean you shouldn't have gotten in trouble before. Like,
yeah. So, like I said, like, I don't think that anyone did anything particularly wrong. Like, I think, 3-day suspension is really nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's what I was going to say is, like, realistically, I'm sure the 3 days was probably just their way of kind of going like, cut it out and like smacking his hand.
Yeah. Like, no.
Yeah.
And, like, sort of like they can't show preferential treatment to anyone.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Because if they were like, no, and then just like nothing happened, then it kind of opens the door for like, oh, well, anytime there's an exploit, I'm going to make a YouTube video and get hundreds of thousands of views because people are like, I want to cheat Hearthstone.
Yeah.
But nothing's going to happen. So I get it. I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up because, being clear of what's expected of a community, I think is important when dealing with really any sort of user-generated content, whether it's a YouTube video, maps, or mods or whatever.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand. So, I mean, kind of branching off of the Blizzard line, and I mentioned this to you before, but there was someone who went onto the Overwatch forums last week at some point. I think it was like early last week or something like that. And he made a thread that was entitled, "Does Blizzard even play their own game?" And then the only thing that he posted in there was "Nuff said." And then Jeff Kaplan, who I forget his exact role. I think he's like maybe like design director or something like that, on Overwatch. But he comes in and says something along the lines of like, well, I have about 800 more wins than what you do, and that doesn't even count the time that I spent playing the game internally or, during alpha and beta. So do you actually have a question here, or are you just trolling? And most people saw that and, they were, laughing it up because, this guy got owned by the game's developer, that kind of thing. And that was, kind of my initial reaction to and everything. But then the more I thought about it, the more I was kind of like, as justified as that response was, kind of a dick thing to say. Like, not very professional, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And just to kind of like summarize how everything ended, apparently through some course of events, I don't recall exactly how, but through some course of events, Jeff Kaplan got in touch with that person again and basically, apologized, kind of explaining, that it was very unprofessional of me. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have acted that way. It was just, I was in the middle of a very hard day at work, and, we do pay attention to the forums. We do read feedback, all that kind of thing. But it's very difficult for us to provide any sort of concrete response when you don't give any sort of concrete criticism. And your post just kind of got under my skin a bit and that kind of thing. So like everything, between Jeff and this forum poster are, they're really good now. Like, things are all patched up, like, no hurt feelings, all that kind of stuff. And I personally just wanted to say, good on Jeff. Like, take some balls to do that kind of thing, admit that you were wrong and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, again, like, I personally felt like his response was justified, but at the same time, like, you got to be professional.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, it's kind of like when you and I get like shitty comments or something, which doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. And it's kind of like, okay, you didn't like the video. That's great. Like, why? Tell us why. Like, we would love to change that to make it into something that you would like. But if you don't tell us why, then it's kind of hard to do that. So
yeah, like you said, like, even looking at like his original comment, like, I don't even think it's like inherently that bad of a comment. Like, he's like, he basically it was short. Like, it was kind of like very like to the point and not like kind. But all he did is like, basically say that, we play the game. This is how much we play the game. And like, do you have a specific question, or are you just here trolling? And like, I like, for whatever reason, I think Reddit like blew that up way out of proportion. Because like,
sure,
like you said, it's not like entirely professional, but it also wasn't like.
I mean, it was kind of like a very backhanded way to respond.
I mean, I feel like even if you had just like thrown in like some more flowery language, like, hey, thanks for playing our game. I just want to let you know that I played this much, and that doesn't include like internal play tests and whatnot. Do you have a specific complaint? And I mean, like I said, like, I personally found it hilarious. Like, when I read that, I was like, that, there's Jeff, he's our guy, stomping on the trolls and that kind of thing. But then, again, like, as I thought about it more, I was like, that's not really an appropriate response, because it was cleverly disguised. So it's like he clearly probably thought it through a little bit. So he was like, this'll get him. But I mean, again, like, the main thing I want to focus on is the fact that, like, he owned up to the fact that his response was inappropriate, and then he had a discussion with the guy, figured out what his real complaints were, and explained things a little bit on the dev side of things, of like why things haven't changed, and although this hasn't changed yet, like, we are keeping an eye on it because we want to make sure it stays in a good place, all that kind of stuff. So I just figured I would, like, let us end on that little mini story of Jeff Kaplan being the type of developer that probably every game developer wants to be. So for the record, he is the game director of Overwatch.
Game director. Okay. I knew he was like something, obviously,
Ben,
like,
we have to
really
end
high
this.
up. I didn't
We're
know.
over 34 minutes. We're ending this.
You're the one that fucking elongated it. I was just explaining.
I
I didn't know
things.
what it was. You don't have to say things.
You wanted to have a one-man podcast?
Yeah, I can have a one-man podcast.
All right, next podcast.
It'd be really boring, but
It's just gonna be Ben talking to himself. I'm not even gonna be here. I'm gonna go outside in the sun. I don't know. Anyway.
All right.
Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any comment or anything you would like us to talk about, let us know in the comments. And we'll see you next time on Spectacular Games.
Bye.
What's that look for?
What's that?
I was gonna say I'll see you next time on Spectacular Games, but there's two of us. We just went over that there was two of us. It was bad.
Yep.
All right.
All right.